name is Riznyk, and I just got clearance from one of my lovely clients to share with you a negotiation case. It was a high-level negotiation. There was a career involved here. And a lot of the people that we negotiate for regrettably want to keep it secret. They're high-profile people or companies with issues that that they don't want to make public. Here, of course, we're going to shield the names, the person, the company, etc., etc. But give you an example of what negotiation is, because a lot of people don't understand the art of negotiation. Most of the people they deal with when they have problems are mediators, arbitrators, and litigators. But negotiators are few and far between, and it's an interesting area. It's one that I absolutely adore. And the reason is, in negotiation, it's not just about what's black and white, what's written, what's stated. It's about a relationship which you develop with the opposing side, understanding the other side, being empathetic to their needs, and working out a true win-win scenario. And unfortunately, in negotiation, there's always a non-negotiable. And that's the big challenge, because in mediation, anything goes. They're just trying to find something in the middle, scare both sides, they settle it, we don't go to court, blah, blah, blah. Not a big fan of mediation at all, but it has its place. But let's talk about this particular case. It had to do with a doctor's career. We had a doctor, and this actually involved both immigration and negotiation, but the immigration is kind of secondary to it. What happened is this doctor got involved in a job. He was here from a foreign country. He was involved in a hospital, and I had never understood until we dealt with so many doctors how much politics was involved in the medical profession. I could just be dealing with doctors all day long. And they're nice people, so it's kind of fun. But long story short, he was accused of doing something that wasn't true. And likewise, there was misinterpretation. I mean, he came from a country that was very friendly, very warm, that kind of a thing. We kiss people on the cheek, blah, blah, blah. And somebody misconstrued it. Then what happened is the next thing is they started telling their friends, and all of a sudden all of these rumors were all over the place. When the hospital got involved, they wanted to get rid of him because that was the easiest thing to do. Unfortunately, from an immigration standpoint, he came in on what's called a J1, and he had a 2-year foreign residency requirement, where you have to live back home for 2 years, which would really kill everything that you've learned here when you were in medical school. But you can have that waived if, for example, you work in an underserved area. It's one of the ways that you can have it waived. It's called the 212B requirement. Well, long story short, that would have been a big problem. So I was called in to negotiate the situation. Flew halfway across the country, dealt with the hospital people. One thing led to the next, and through a 1-hour meeting, we were able to reason with the CEO, who was a very nice person, and get everything resolved. However, a month later, he calls me again. And here's a problem that you face. When a problem begins, it often reverberates. It's like you've heard me say before that a bell can't be unrung. Well, all of a sudden, he became an easy target because people noticed how easy it was to get him in trouble in the first place. And of course, the hospital didn't want to take any chances with their reputation. So all of a sudden, a second accusation comes up. Again, there's no proof, even though this hospital is surrounded with security video cameras. And I'd seen some evidence that proved that he was innocent, although, and this is a problem, the hospital didn't want to consider that evidence. Well, this second time around, the hospital had told me, we're firing him and we're reporting him to the medical board. Well, if he's getting fired, he's never again going to have an easy time of finding a job in America, especially in his specialty, which is a very narrow one, and people know people. And of course, he'd have to go back to his home country, and then applying, to a hospital and telling them that you have this on your record certainly doesn't help. Well, so this was a much tougher negotiation. There were 3 people that I was negotiating with: the CEO, the president, and the lawyer, all together in one room at the same time. And they were basically talking about the fact that, they can't take any risks. He's done. Goodbye. And so I had to stay an extra day because we had trouble reaching the CEO. But long story short, after the relationship and rapport that I had developed with him, and this was a difficult time for him as well, he was going through his own issues, we were finally able to negotiate that all of this would be removed from his record, and any references that he sought would never deal with this. It would not be in his file, and he would resign. We got him tens of thousands of dollars in bonuses and wages that were due that he would have otherwise lost, which more than paid for the negotiation. And he had a clean slate, and now he's found another position, and everything is fine, as if it never happened. We were able to file a case at the immigration department and had his case transferred to a new hospital so that he can continue his foreign residency requirement and move on with a career. Now, if the question you have for me is, so how did you do it? The answer is I don't know. And the reason I say that is, I've gone to a number of lectures on negotiation. I've read a bunch of books. I go to seminars, constantly reading articles, constantly learning from my own experiences. We're involved in employment law negotiation, litigation negotiation, merger and acquisition deals, marital disputes, domestic disputes, you name it. And after a while, you kind of learn, but I think you learn on a subconscious level, because clients have often asked me, so what are you going to say? And my answer is I don't know, and it scares them to death, but I said, look, have confidence. I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't know what the air is going to be like, the mood of the person. There are many things, there are many factors that play at that exact moment. How you come across, what you say, how you say it, obviously makes all the difference in the world. But I can't say one thing. It takes a lot of mental horsepower, because after an hour of negotiating, I am drained for the rest of the day. It's just, there's nothing left of me. But that's because at that time, you are thinking about all of the possible scenarios. What can I say? What can I say if they say this? What's plan B? What's plan C? How are we going to go about this? So obviously we discuss a few potential scenarios with our client in advance, but we never know what is going to be stated. We never know if people are going to be upset. I mean, there are times that emotions got pretty tough in this doctor's case, and it was a room I didn't necessarily want to be in at the time. But we got it resolved. At the end of the day, he got everything he wanted and then some. He didn't expect to get all of that money. And this is not one of the easiest hospitals to deal with, but I will say they treated us very fairly. Had he not hired me to negotiate, had we not negotiated this, he absolutely would have been fired. He would have been forced to leave the country, and he'd be reported to the medical board. Those 3 are for sures. And yes, negotiation isn't cheap. It's not, $25 an hour. But at the end of the day, if it gets the job done, it's worth a lot. And oftentimes, like in this case, we were able to get all of the person's bonus, this, that, a lot of stuff, which amounted to tens of thousands of dollars, which had he been fired, he would have got zero under his contract. So negotiation does work. I can't tell you the exact mechanism. I know that it's related to the human being. There's a relationship. There's a lot to be said when you have a third party in between so that the parties aren't clashing with each other, because that never works, especially when somebody's an untrained or unskilled negotiator. But it really is more, I would say it's 50% psychology and 50% crisis control. And when you put them together, you have results that are fantastic. I know that in dealing with marital disputes, we have saved clients, on average, $100,000 in litigation costs, easily, by having a negotiation that only lasted 1, maybe 2 days. So it's a field that I absolutely enjoy and treasure. And being emotional creatures, things happen, and crises happen, situations happen. Analyze what the risks are of what can happen if something goes wrong, and then ask yourself, should we negotiate it? Look at the United Airlines situation, for example. We have an article about that on our website, sandiegobizlaw.com, under the negotiation tab, which is under the litigation section. And you'll understand, had a negotiator been hired there, this would have never went to the extent to where shareholders lost almost $1 billion in one day. Sure, the stock bounced back, but not necessarily all the people who lost that billion were the ones who gained it back. Others could have bought it, or there could have been triggers set up to buy it when it reaches a certain mark. So, there are a lot of issues that people will face on a regular basis. Some are true, some aren't. Sometimes, some of my clients say, I did this. I created this mess, calling you because I know you can get me out of it. Do what needs to be done. So, there are times that we get upset. We say or do things we shouldn't. We get into a mess. We can help you there sometimes. And then there's situations where we aren't at fault, but still the price that has to be paid is ours, and it's a very high price. So that's an example of a successful negotiation. I can't tell you much more without giving away any names and getting into the stories, because we keep everything very private, and then we shred everything so it didn't really exist. But anyway, if you have any questions, give us a call. Otherwise,